That's funny. So we're getting towards the silly season. And, I've always, my mom always tried to make sure that Christmas was something special for us and the grandparents. Usually we got stuff we wanted, clothes. Clothes. Same way kids are. Socks! I usually wanted something that had to do with either more arrows or more bullets. That was like, I've been shooting since uh, six, 6 years old. I was a pretty good shot. I'd already ran 1,000 rounds through my single shot by that time. So usually I wanted bullets or arrows because I've also been I'm a lover of the bow. I'm a taxophyllite. Why? Well, I was a Sagittarius, and when I found that out, I naturally just fell in love with the bow. So it all seemed to work out. Pretty good shot too. As soon as I put a sight on it, I was okay. I was okay with a free bow, recurve, straight limb, didn't matter. Good instinct shooter because I'd been doing it since I was a kid. You know what I mean? I was shocked as an adult at the age of 30 the first time I shot a bow with a sight. Now, I shot one of the first cam bows that were made, and it was not a recurve. It was a single curve cam, and that just blew me away. I was like, wow, this technology is amazing. You know what I mean? You take 55-pound bow and drop it down to 27. It's just scary good. And then triggers. And then I thought I was pretty good. And then I put a sight on my bow. That consists of a hole in the string with an elastomer material that attaches to the bow. So when you pull it back, the eye is aligned down the shaft. So you put your arrow on there. When you draw that back to your eye, and most archers will have a position that they like to rest their hand in every single time, and the string will always touch a certain part all the time. And then sticks, basically colored pegs that were on the front of the riser with colors on them and separated for distance. And I was trying to get rid of ground squirrels out at the golf course because it was just infested. There would literally be 1,000 golf balls in these squirrel holes that they dig out there. So, and then the farmer who owned the land on the other side of the fence saw me shooting one day, and he told me about his cows getting hurt in the holes out there. And so he had me on his property for 2 years getting rid of these pests. I thought it was okay. I did. What a fucking shocking moment. And I remember it just like yesterday. There was not a squirrel, a ground squirrel hole. And I'd say it was 25, 30 yards, which for me, free shooting, I could get close or hit it, maybe 1 out of 4 arrows, maybe. And so the first round I shot didn't just go in the hole, it went in the middle of the fucking hole. And I was like, what? I thought, oh yeah, that can't be like that. And I put the next one in, I drew it back. It literally clink and hit the other arrow. Now I am excited. Someone's been shooting the bow since he was a young fucking child, and thinking that cam technology was the shit. And nothing could improve that. My first bow sight experience, wow. And all because all archers who shoot without a sight know that you either instinct shoot, okay, or you don't shoot at all. Because when you draw that string back and it's on your eye, if you take a piece of string that's that thick, okay, which is thicker than a bowstring, and you hold it right here on your eye, it's that wide. It appears to be that wide, like it's taken up your whole eye. And for you to line that up with the back of the arrow to make sure that when your arrow leaves, okay, that, you get that paradox going as it kicks out and bends the arrow a little bit and off it goes. It's instinct. So that's why you don't use that string as an aim point. You pull it back and you're basically shooting instinct. From the position where the string is on your face, you know which way you're pointed, and a good release. If you're using a pad on your hand or a trigger, I got hooked on triggers. First time I used a trigger, that was it. I never went back to 3-finger again. And I literally put 8 or 9 arrows into that hole, that ground school hole. And that was it for me. I was a believer. I got a TM arrow rest in 89. I put a TM on my bow, and I learned how to adjust those tongs to get the arrows to pass through without hitting the where they're attached. Man, holy fuck, man. I'm talking, 60 yards. I could hit a pie plate every time. Every time. That's when I was young and strong, of course. I could hit one every time. I didn't need my back for that. Even when my back was hurting, I never used any of the muscles that are near my injury. Never bothered me that much, really, unless my back was already hurting. So it was good for me in that sense, good exercise. But there's something funny about this. And I like to tell this story because people talk about the mother of invention and all that shit. Listen, for thousands of years, that's how men survived. That was their primary weapon and way of getting meat. Okay, warfare and meat. It was needed for survival, because other than that, you're throwing a rock or a spear or a fucking sharp stick, and you're not going to compete with a bow. As soon as the bow and arrow was invented, which was probably way sooner than we think, that was it. Okay? From that point on, people learned how to season and shape and even layer. Like some of the Mongolians had layered laminated bows way back with bone and shit. So in those thousands of years, no one thought to put a hole in the string? What? No one thought to put a hole in the string? You see, as soon as you put a little peephole in that string, all of a sudden you can see straight down your arrow shaft. You are aligned with the bowstring and the back of the arrow, and you can see the front of the arrow, and it's no longer blurry. You have a crystal clear picture of the alignment of the shaft. And now your pins just tell you distance. You go out, you shoot, in the early days, not much consistency to the mass and the, straightness of arrows, but close enough. Well, why didn't no one think to do that? Because as soon as you put a hole in the string, you're going to put another stick out there on your bow to tell you, oh, every time I fire at the tip of this with my sight, with my hole and the tip of this stick lined up, the arrow goes right there. And that stick happens to be this distance. which is where my whatever era bow performs its best. Why did no one put a hole in the string? Thousands of years. Absolutely necessary technology. It was the everything. No one thought to put a hole in the string? I didn't. I've considered myself my entire life to be an inventor extraordinaire. Never came to my mind. I thought it would be nice, but I never thought about doing it. I always thought it would be nice to be able to see through the string, but I never attempted it. And evidently, for thousands of years, no one else in the world did either that we know of. We've never found a bow with a string that had a bead or a rock or a bone that had a fucking hole in it weaved into the string. They could have done that technology easily thousands of years ago. And there are many elastomer materials that could have been used. You see, you need that elastomer material to put next to your riser so that when you pull that back, the arm on your hole is aligned correctly. Otherwise, it'll just move around and your hole is not effective. But maybe that was it. Maybe that was the missing key or the point that no one thought of for a long time till we had stretchy rubber bands. But even then, for the last, we've had rubber for 1,000 years. No one thought to put a hole in a string. I don't get it. When people talk about the mother of invention and all that, I always laugh and I tell them this story, and it leaves them thinking. I said, humans haven't thought of it all yet. There's some simple fucking shit that are so basic that it just goes right over our head. Quantum gravity, all the way down to a hole in a fucking string. There's things that we just don't, for some reason, as necessary as the bow was. It was long in England that you had to shoot so many hours a day or you'd get locked up in the stocks. It was that important. When you got called to war, you better be fucking good with your longbow. No one thought to put a hole in a string. I find that simply amazing.